Historic changes unfold worldwide as Zionist project collapse. Brutally, historic events are unfolding worldwide as the centuries-old Zionist project implodes. This can be seen with the UN running out of money, a massive Turkish invasion of Syria, and an escalating civil war in the United States, among other things. Also, multiple signs indicate that some sort of high-level deal has been reached between Russia, China, and the US for a new system of global stewardship. Let's start with the situation in the US. Here, the military government, headed by President Donald Trump, has secured funding from China to avoid bankruptcy, Pentagon sources say. In effect, China will pay cash for an abundance of food from US to buy time until a global currency reset takes time, they say. The US military sent us this photograph with the caption, "To welcome the new fiscal year." Trump summoned military brass for a White House meeting and a dinner on October 7 with top General Mark Milley and other Army generals wearing World War II uniforms and declaring war on Zionists and the deep state. Furthermore, the Pentagon sources say the hunt for Red October is on as the hunter, Biden, and other traitors becomes the hunted, and General Jose Danford oversees military tribunals. Russian sources tell us that former President Barack Hussein Obama had already been executed by a firing squad. The Pentagon sources did not confirm this, but did say civil war is raging with Gitmo Guantanamo Bay executions, declassifications, mobilized troops and feds, and potential takeover of California. Zionists, of course, are not going quietly into the night. A senior MI6 source say he was told by a very reliable source of an outlandish claim of a glorious revelation by the fallen angels between December 21st and 24th. To instigate full thermonuclear warfare of exterminate the very last majority of life on this planet. This is, of course, a reiteration of Israeli salmon option to destroy the world if its existence is threatened. Israel definitely is facing an existential crisis with a massive Turkish army heading its way. Christian Zionists and Zionist media are having fits about the US abandon the Kurds as Turkey moves into Syria. Although corporate media refer to this as a limited incursions to secure its border, the Kurds are saying otherwise. We can't wait. As Turkey, we will never stop this fight, no matter what anyone says. Turkey left the biggest geopolitical interventions in its political history with the Peace Spring operation. Their entire corridor spanning the Iranian border and the Mediterranean is going to be purged. The Turkey zone, a peace zone, is going to be built there, says Turkish columnist Abraham-hicks. If you look at a map of the Middle East, the corridor they are going to purge includes Syria, Iraq, Kuwait, Lebanon, Jordan, and Israel. It also looks very much like the Turks have tacit Russian and US support for this move. On Thursday, the US and Russia vetoed an EU resolution calling on Turkey to cease unilateral military action. This is the first time since the UN first met in 1946 that the US and Russia have vetoed the same Security Council resolution. The Europeans could do nothing but wring their hands. The Turkish operation into northeast Syria can open a new dramatic chapter in the already very dark history of the Syrian war. The potential consequences of such military action are clear to everyone, at least are very clear to us. The repercussions can be extremely serious in humanitarian, military, political, and strategic terms. High Representative Vice President Federica Mogherini told the European Parliament. Translation: the result of the World War I are being undone to the detriment of the French and the British. The Kurds and Turkey are having been fighting for many years. Turkey considers the PKK the worst terrorist of all. Others may want to come in and fight for one side or the other. Let them. We are monitoring the situation closely. Endless wars, very smart not to be involved in the intense fighting along the Turkish border for a change, Trump tweeted in response. Turkey has 1.9 million active troops and reserves versus 150,000 Syrian troops and 30,000 Kurdish forces. So taking Syria at least looks like it might be a cakewalk for the Turks. The big question, of course, is what happens to the former Turkish territory of Saudi Arabia, the heart of the petrodollar system. Saudi Arabia is turning east with a visit by Russian President Vladimir Putin and may even get $400 missile to defend itself from Israel, Pentagon sources say. The Saudi economy is also imploding, with its plan to release its oil company Aramco in big trouble. Aramco has been downgraded by Fitch to A and may reach BB or below in investment grade as the sovereign wealth funds, state-owned companies, pensions, and billionaires reject becoming cornerstone investor in its IPO, the Pentagon sources say. Given these circumstances, the country, privately owned by the Satanic Saud family, may well return to Turkish control. In Israel, meanwhile, it looks like the rats are starting to abandon the Zionist ship, starting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mossad sources tell us, Bibi so far has not been invited to any coalition. He's staying off the radar and preparing an exit strategy. He knows his time is up. He will attempt to disappear. He has several alternatives. His motives are being closely monitored. Netanyahu is now trying to negotiate a plea bargain wherein he still testified about things like Fukushima and his Zionist bosses in exchange for U.S. military protection, Pentagon sources say. The Zionists, meanwhile, in addition to making attempt nuclear threats, have been using weather warfare against Japan and the United States. Japan was hit on October 12 with what was advertised as a Category 5 typhoon in the saturation Japanese media scared mongering campaign. If you look at the screenshot from the Japanese weather satellite, you can see an unusual grid pattern on the left side of the typhoon that is a clear sign of weather warfare. In the end, though, the typhoon turned out to be nothing more than a heavy rainstorm. Much of the flooding damage reported in the press appears to have been the result of deliberate sabotage as several dams opened their floodgates. There were also media reports of the magnitude 5.7 earthquake in Tokyo, but neither I nor anyone else I know in Tokyo felt it. Japan should not bow down to the deep state, but be on the right side of history, Pentagon sources say. They can help by sending in the military police to arrest the gangster-linked trader Shinzo Abe. In the U.S., the Midwestern Corn Belt was hit by unprecedented snowstorms. While normally 75% of the harvest would have been taken in by now, unprecedented spring flooding had delayed planning, meaning that only 22% of the harvest had been taken in before the snow hit. California, meanwhile, was hit with acid, rapidly shutdowns for the power grid and other chaos. That's why the U.S. military is planning to take temporary control of that rogue state. Invading California also would let them nationalize the subversive cable tech companies like Google, PayPal, and Facebook. Of course, the biggest cable Calicunet that needs to be nationalized is a private-owned Federal Reserve Board. That seems to be happening, since now even the Dutch central bank is saying if the system collapses, the gold stock can be served as a basic to build it up again. Gold bolsters confidence in the stability of central bank's balance sheet and create a sense of security. This is what a CA source sent in about the financial system reset just as the support was about to go live. We are in the endgame now. I was told by someone who is in the know, at the top of the pyramid and who is one of the US, that a global banking reset is weeks away, not months away. It is most likely tied in this Brexit and crisis in Hong Kong. If corrected, there will be a major event taking place in Hong Kong on the same day. Take note that November 1st is a Friday. It's a perfect timeline to close down the online banking system over the weekend, as has always been the case with pre-planned government events. We know the potential outcome. If ATMs are temporarily offline due to the system malfunction, as is usually stated in the screen of ATM when the switch is turned off, panic amongst the massive will go ballistic. As with any prediction of the future, we can only wait and see if it is true. However, since the US is the most indebted nation in the world history, nationalization, the threat and resetting the system would require an agreement with creditors, especially China. On this front, Trump upped the pressure on China by kicking them out of the Long Beach port, in addition to invoking tariffs and the whole slew of other threats. In this context, it's a good guess that pork plagues and army worms devastating Chinese food productions are not acts of nature. The US appears to also be offering carrots. In specific, the US military has started releasing previously hidden high-tech to the public. For example, it has released UFO-like technology that would completely revolutionize the air and space travel. It also releasing patents of compact fusion reactors that would completely transform the world economy. If this fusion technology works, it will literally make it possible for everyone on Earth to live like a millionaire. There are also signs the UN may finally move out of New York. Secretary General Antonio Guterres said on Monday, October 7th, that it may run out of money by the end of October. This is happening mainly because the US and 64 other countries have stopped paying their UN dues. It means China can get its wish to have it moved to Laos or somewhere else in Asia if they would have been willing to pay the bills. A new age is dawning.